Friends and family, being back here feels really good. It's not that I've been away. As a matter of fact, I've been very present on the scene, studying the terrain and the tide a little more deeply than before, and appreciating the direction that life is taking. I just read the final word of Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom. And boy, the impression that book has had on me is so deep. It's one of those books you read and stay with a feeling of, I should do something about something, that you should bring real value to life. And by life, I mean generally the lives of the people around you, the community, the nation, if you like, the globe. So yeah, that's how charged I am as I stand before you. But interestingly, it's not the book I've come to present to you today. The book I have come to share from is called The Art of War by one Chinese guy called Sun Tzu. Hopefully I've pronounced it correctly. This guy lived in ancient China several years ago, several centuries ago, and this book that he wrote has actually apparently influenced military strategy and thinking for so many countries across the globe. He was a writer, he was a philosopher, he was a general and a military strategist. And the reason that we should learn from this book is not because we are going to the front line somewhere in some bush or some jungle, and it's not because we are soldiers, like trained soldiers in the technical sense, but because life itself is a war situation. You are fighting to get something, and another force is fighting to get it away from you. You're fighting to retain your freedom, to retain your sanity, and there's a force fighting to take it away from you. So from that perspective, we are all engaged in some sort of war, and therefore we need to understand the art of war. Now, in any war situation, the opponents have got to plan. I mean, you as an opponent who I am addressing, you've got to plan and have a very, very definite way of doing things. You've got to think about what provisions you need. You've got to think about what tactics you're going to employ. You've got to think about what strategy you're going to use. And things in that category. If you ever go to a front line and you've not had those properly sorted out, then we know what the result of your fight is going to be. You're going to lose. But beyond that, Sue gives us 5 constants that we have got to keep very well catered for, that you keep constantly at the back of your mind, even before you get to be engaged in a war. And these 5 are the following. Number 1, the moral law. And we said the context is life. It's not the bush. It's not somewhere in DRC or in wherever their front lines or in Afghanistan. No, it's life. It's your life, your family, your bedroom, your workplace, wherever you are handling your life from is your front line. So this is what you should be thinking about. Moral law as factor number 1 that governs the art of war. The war that you are in, the war of life, the war to keep your freedoms, the war to live a poverty-free life, the war to get rid of ignorance and illiteracy, the war to, get all those nice things that you want in life. Because there's a guy on the other side who's bent on depriving you of those things. So that is the war that I'm talking about. So the factors that govern the art of your war, number 1 is the moral law. And the writer defines this as that causes people to work with you regardless of what is at stake. Now, the idea is that everyone has a vision, you have a dream, you have things that you would like to achieve. And it is highly likely that you will not achieve them on your own. You need someone to help you. You need someone to think through the ideas that you have. You need someone to believe in you. So the question is, are you living your life in such a way that someone will be compelled to come along and give you that push that you need? If you're a leader in an organization, is your vision that compelling? Have you managed to ingrain it in the hearts of the people that are following, so that they follow not because you give them a salary, but because they would like to go with you to the very end of your vision? Are you creating a harmonious environment where people are free to contribute? Moral law. Are you a magnet or a repellent? Do people like to stick around you? When you speak, is it to the hearts, right into the hearts of the people? And speaking of this, I'm reminded of the things that I have read about Nelson Mandela and the Oliver Thambos and Walter Sisulu in the book The Long Walk to Freedom. They were able to speak to the hearts of the people and made people willing to follow them regardless of the deaths that were happening at that time for anyone who engaged in such activity. So for you, if you're a family head, are your family members compelled to follow your vision in your department, in your organization, wherever you are? What image of yourself and your vision are you printing before the people? It is important because that determines whether and how they follow you. I hope that is clear. Number 2 is the factor of heaven. Now, the writer Zhu uses heaven to mean night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons, those contrasting conditions. Yeah, the highs and lows of life, the winter and autumn, the rain and dry seasons. Are you appreciating those things and therefore aligning yourself to the idea that okay, right now I have got some money, but there might be a season ahead when I don't have money. So how do I act when I have money so that I go through the next dry season decently, comfortably? Maybe I want to save. Maybe I want to invest. Yeah? There are those factors that you cannot control, but which prevail in your life situation, in your war zone. How are you aligning yourself, your activities, your team, your family, your dreams, your tactics, your strategies with them? 3, the earth. The earth signifies the distances, the dangers, the security, the open ground, the narrow passes, the risks involved. Okay, now, this is what Zhu wants to communicate. It is geography. How are you appreciating the geography in your situation? Now, the terrain where you are will determine a lot in terms of how successful you are. What tactics you choose to use. What are the local issues? What are the cultural issues? What are the social issues around you? How can you use what you have to navigate the geographical barriers or challenges? For instance, how will you use technology to sort physical challenges? Maybe you want to use an email to attach a document instead of printing it and putting it in an envelope to give it to your janitor to deliver. That's just a simple example. So, what tact are you going to employ in order to navigate the challenges that Earth presents? 4, the commander. Now, the commander represents the virtues of wisdom, of sincerity, of benevolence, of courage, of strictness. So we're talking about how you lead. Either you or your representative leads will determine whether and how people follow. Will people believe in you? Are you honest? Are you a person of integrity? Do you do what you preach? I've been with people who say, do what I say, but not what I do. When we peep into your heart, do we see the things you tell us? Are you willing to risk your life as much as you ask us to risk ours for your vision? Yeah? What are your values? What are your beliefs? When you speak, what do we pick out of your speech? That will determine whether we follow you or not. We want to know how transparent you are, how fair you are, how personable you are, how sympathetic, how empathetic, how caring you are as the commander. Otherwise, we don't want anything to do with you. And that, of course, will impact whether you're successful or not. And I said this applies to you who's the leader of your family. Your spouse and children might not want to follow you if you are not very clear on where you are taking them and you don't communicate this lovingly, engagingly, interestingly, and all those things. The last and fifth factor is method and discipline. So everything said and done, they house. If it's an army, you would be thinking about how you assemble and group it into those divisions. You would be thinking who graduates from one rank to the next and how is that governed. So generally, we're talking about structures. In an organization setting, we're talking about processes and methods and systems. Are these fair? Is it obvious that if I do this well, I will get this reward? If I do it poorly, I will also get that reward. Is it that clear? So people are sure that these are the consequences of this behavior. Yeah? How are you controlling expenditure? For example, we know that all these things will come with a cost. How are you controlling expenditure? How sure are you that tomorrow will be well catered for? How are you handling the matters around sustainability? You have to be a going concern. How have you planned for that? Those are the 5 factors governing the art of war. And anyone who's going to be successful at war should keep these things well looked after. The moral law, which is about whether people will follow you or not. Heaven, which is about those constant factors of season, time and day, cold and hot or heat. How are you aligning yourself? You can only align. You can't change them. You can only align. So how are you using tact to align yourself? And then the earth, which is about the geography. The geography will talk to you about the cultural setting of your area, the beliefs, the social expectations, how much you can use to go around the challenges that are related to that geography. And then the commander, being yourself or your representative, their values, the wisdom, the experience, and how those you are using to influence how your followers respond to your call. And then lastly is method and discipline, which speaks about structures. Even as an individual, what structures have you put in place to ensure that you cover the distance that you have set out to cover? Do you have a list of the things that you are doing every day? Do you appreciate that you should keep your relationships well? I mean, what have you put in place to enable you to achieve every day? So those 5, I pray that you learn. You can even read the book. It's available. Just go to Google and ask about the art of war, and they will guide you in your daily life. We said that success lies in the daily agenda. So daily, be diligent at the front line, and victory shall be yours. Always glad to share. Always glad to share my experience, my learning, and make sure that we push each other a mile or so further. I'll be coming back soon with with another delicacy. Love you.